Let's get into some ETF news today. It is a big day that will reveal some very interesting stuff, so you guys will want to stick around for it. Let's just jump right in. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is BTCC. This is a great place where you guys can go in and get a little bit more creative in your trading. You get a 10% bonus first time on the deposit, just using our link down below. Also gives you some other benefits there when you sign up using the PBN link. And one thing I've started to do is long and shorts. Those are the simple things, whether you're into leverage trading or not. Those are the kind of activities you can do over on BTC, regardless of market volatility. This is where traders are making their moves right now. Check it out down below. As you guys know, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and one of the videos that we did a couple of weeks ago was this one right here, and it was bull market catalysts, what it would take. Let me inform you that none of those catalysts have taken place, meaning we said these are the things that have to happen for the market to move, and it's been almost the exact opposite. So today I wanted to bring in, of course, our friend from Grayscale, and that is Zach Pandl, coming in, head of research. How are you?
I'm great, Paul. Awesome to be with you today.
All right, Zach, there's a lot happening. The markets have been very volatile, to say the least. We've seen so much movement in the general market, and when you look at the reasoning behind this, many people would say, well, you know, it's OG wallets selling. It's Bitcoin kind of repositioning. You know, you've got all these scenarios that have played out within the market itself. What do you think is the bullish short-term position right now for the markets? Now, I say short-term, next, say 60 days.
Yeah, great question. Look, crypto native investors often look for crypto native explanations for what's going on, even when what's happening in prices is correlated to lots of other things happening in markets. And so, look, what I see, Paul, is a repricing of macro expectations over the last few months. You think back to August, we were real optimistic about the U.S. economy, anticipating further rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. Today, more caution about the labor market, about credit markets, more questions about the outlook for Federal Reserve policy. For me, the bull case thesis is that the reality is still pretty good, honestly, for markets. The economy is fine. The Federal Reserve is still supportive. Within crypto, the kind of fundamental pillars for demand and what's been driving this bull market still very much in place. So I would say that the optimistic case is just that markets get a little bit more confident again about the economy and the broader market backdrop. I think that's enough for crypto to stabilize and begin to recover from where we are today.
I'm looking for specific short-term catalysts, and
Sure.
one of the things I'm kind of comparing this to is back to this tweet here, and that is the activity that we've seen with Bitcoin. And OG Whale's now been selling more Bitcoin than ever before. This, of course, continues. I guess that's really one of the categories that I think will at least slow this market down, is if we see that stopping. If you think about that along with unlikely to get Clarity Act in 2025, that's getting pushed. In the next 60 days, I mean, if we were to get into a clarity, maybe a regulatory front is the way to go here. Do you feel like those Bitcoin wallets slowing their selling and some more regulation that maybe gets confirmed, do you think those would be enough to get this market restarted?
I do think that those would be enough, and I think, you know, some of the other macro topics. But yes, I think progress on market structure legislation, on the Senate version of the Clarity Act, and some change in the fund flow picture is how I would put it. Look, Bitcoin OG whales, as you characterize them, have been selling really since the ETFs launched in January of 2024, but price has been up since then. And that's because there's been a ready buyer on the other end, which is the ETFs. And so I think what you need to see is that ETF bid come back into the market. That would be confirmation that we've reached a bottom or a positive catalyst into the end of the year.
Well, you also look at this percentage of supply right now held by public companies. This, of course, is flattened for Bitcoin, but if it's increased dramatically for Ethereum and even Solana. When you look at that both on Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, DATS, and you kind of compare where the market is right now, what would you say right now would be the winning factor here? Do you think we'll continue to see maybe these DATS softening on Bitcoin, or do you think that we get more of a position on Bitcoin in the future?
I think that there will be a lasting role for these types of companies that are holding crypto on balance sheet and finding additional ways to get value out of them, either through changing their capital structure, their liabilities, or doing something on the asset side of the balance sheet. So, we're focused on ETF or ETP products for our investors. I think digital asset treasuries are another way to get crypto exposure in a portfolio, and I think that they will be a lasting part of the ecosystem. There's always ups and downs in demand for these vehicles, and we're at a waning point at this very moment. But I think appetite could come right back as equity markets stabilize.
All right, let's move on to kind of the news of the day, and that, of course, is your launch of the XRP ETF that you guys have going on. Obviously, GSOL already launched for you guys, and of course, you have gross staking rewards of almost 7.25% there. When you look at Solana and XRP, especially on the ETF performance, how do you think these play out? Now you're going to have competing ETFs, which are very competitive out there in the market space right now, ETFs between SOL and XRP. How do you think this play out compared to market caps?
Well, absolutely. Both products, major parts of the crypto ecosystem, large liquid assets with enthusiastic investor bases. I see them as a bit different and different flavors for investors to consider, and ideally build a portfolio of crypto assets that includes multiple things, usually starting with Bitcoin, but these smart contract platforms and other assets included in that as well. XRP, a battle-tested blockchain, originally designed for payments use cases, but broadening to other use cases today, one of the largest and most liquid assets in crypto. I think there will be significant demand for these ETF products, as we've seen with the Solana and Ethereum ETF products as well. Our view at Grayscale is that investors need digital assets in diversified portfolios to have the best risk-adjusted returns over time, especially given the macro risk that every investor is facing. And all of these assets can be held together, in different flavors depending on investor preferences to build that crypto allocation. We are delighted to be able to broaden the access to these assets with new ETF products like this.
Well, we've seen some pretty successful launches so far with the XRP ETFs, with Canary, obviously Bitwise launching last week. This is the thing that I'm kind of curious about, because these two, I believe, at some point, institutional capital, they probably will deploy into both, but they're probably going to have a preference, one or the other. You have both. What do you think will happen?
Right. Well, as you know, Paul, we've talked about this before. It's like deciding between my children when I look at these large cap assets. Look, I like to encourage institutional investors to, start from the top, begin with Bitcoin, the largest, most liquid asset that has the most clear macro use case. And then the rest of these assets, they're all unlocking types of innovations in digital finance. And what we want to think about is, where are those uses? Stable coins, tokenized assets, prediction markets, DeFi. Where is that being built out? And the asset that you want to own is the thing that's becoming the platform for those digital finance innovations. Ethereum was the starter and the leader of this process, and so that's a natural first step to take, is with Ethereum. And then the rest of these assets are all competing for a piece of that. And I think all of them will play a role. All of them already play a role today in different aspects of this, with stable coins or DeFi, et cetera. We want to figure out which ones are going to be the biggest platforms over time. It's going to be an intense race, I assure you, over the next 5 and 10 years.
Well, listen, one of the things that would give you an uneven advantage in this intense race is getting into staking on XRP. I'm looking at Doppler Finance. They continue to kind of drive the position right here. And it's difficult for an XRP holder, especially native asset, to go out and stake. It's cumbersome to get it done until that starts to loosen up. Imagine if you had a stake opportunity within an ETF. I mean, literally just right there, easy click, easy access for millions and millions of institutional and retail investors to stake their XRP, well, have staked XRP, I should say, exposure to it. Wouldn't that be a good product, don't you think?
We are actively looking at all of these things, and I'm delighted to say that we began the process of staking in US-listed ETFs with our Ethereum products in October, and the Treasury and IRS have now given more detailed guidance about the treatment of these products. So I think you will see much more staking activity in ETF, crypto ETFs. Paul, I think you're exactly right. The best investor experience is to have the token itself, but also any additional rewards that it may be delivering in native form. So we want to be able to deliver that to investors, with the restrictions of having a successful risk-managed ETF. We think that we'll be able to do that in most cases. We've begun that on Ethereum. Grayscale, the only asset manager providing staked Ethereum products today. We've done that on Solana. I think it will be expanding to many of our other stakeable assets over time.
Well, you've got a lot of activity right now when you look at XRP and DeFi in general. Firelight launching December 3rd. Their new whole Firelight protocol gets ready to go live. We'll see a lot of activity around this, which could be indicative of driving more interest, I think, for the investor community. Because obviously, as we see staking become a big factor, do you feel like that's been one of the driving factors for what you guys have done with GSOL in terms of the staking component? Have investors said this is one of the reasons?
100%. Staking is an important driver from institutional interest. They are laser focused on the ability to capture these reward rates on top of stakeable tokens. And that's a key differentiator of the, as you know, proof of stake assets versus proof of work based Bitcoin, and is a huge part of the conversation with institutional investors. They are looking for that yield. And on some of these protocols, it's quite substantial, 7% plus on Solana. So has absolutely been a driver of demand for those ETF products. I think that will continue for all the proof of stake networks as we stand up more of them in ETF structures.
Yeah, for anybody that's asset managers, all you have to do is look at this Doppler chart right here in terms of demand. It's there for sure. Let's get on to the additional announcement that you guys have for today, and that, of course, is the fact that you're launching another big ETF today. Which one is that?
That is our GDOG, Dogecoin, GDOG, Dogecoin ETF. Look, talking about Dogecoin can't but bring a smile to my face. It is a kind of fascinating project within crypto, and people have different ways for thinking about it. I think of it as tokenized internet culture, that memes are part of internet culture, and crypto is the financial layer of the internet. And so having one of these assets, a kind of a meme that is designed to make you smile, essentially, be available in an ETF, I think is wonderful. Of course, investors should consider, how do you think about putting all these assets into a portfolio? Which ones are likely to make the best risk-adjusted returns over time? And we have all of these thoughtful conversations with investors. But, Dogecoin and memes in general are a part of crypto, a part of the internet, and a part of culture now. I think will remain the case, and I think it is absolutely the right thing to have an ETF that provides access to the largest of these available to U.S. investors. We're also thrilled to bring that product to market today.
Man, I'm going to have to get one of these shirts because I like the GDOG. I like the GDOG tag ticker, for sure. It's a good ticker. All right, so when you look at institutional capital, do they care about something like a Doge? Are they in there playing in these kind of ETF? Do you think they will be?
They care in the sense that everyone is going through a process of learning about crypto, myself included. It's really a never-ending journey. And we have these conversations. How do I think about this asset? How is it built? What is it exactly? And I think that for an institutional level, I absolutely think there will be a trading interest in these structures, for shorter-term oriented investors. Absolutely, there will be that type of interest. Look, I think there are probably other assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We've talked about some of them, many others on the list that naturally go together in building an institutional long horizon portfolio. But I think that there will be substantial demand for Dogecoin as a trading instrument, and it will have some institutional engagement as well.
Well, one thing to consider, and I think I look at it, from a meme standpoint, I wonder if what we saw with Elon's kind of a double-edged sword. Sometimes he can hurt you, sometimes he can help you. And when I think of crypto communities, do you think what his efforts were in general, do you think the Doge efforts that Elon was trying to make actually hurt the concept of the coin itself, of the token itself?
I think it brought attention to it. Look, Dogecoin has the right attitude, I think. This is designed to make people happy, to make people smile, to think about community and generosity and these types of concepts is absolutely something I can support. Of course, it's had volatility in the past, driven by, particularly visible people like Elon Musk talking about this asset, and I anticipate that some things like that will continue over time. Mm-hmm. And Grayscale investors, the conversation that we have with them is to think about the risks of any asset in crypto. Dogecoin has a higher risk profile than Bitcoin. It has different use case, and you're going to want to think about constructing a portfolio in a different way when you're talking about each of these different assets. And I think, frankly, investors understand that pretty well. They don't even need me to say it, but we do provide, of course, these kind of risk management conversations regularly as well.
Well, listen, everybody's going to be watching this ETF launch, because if this one does well, then there's one more, I think, that should be in consideration. Of course, that is Pengu. I mean, here you got Congressman Timmons, of course, goes out and plays around. Everybody has to understand, this is a congressman that presented the NFT bill out there. So this isn't just some rando congressman. He understands this digital asset market. But he was able to generate some immediate impact on on what happened right here. And of course, Luca even commented right there, 10,000 likes, no problem, coming right up. And then of course he gets it, changes his avatar there. Do you think Pengu is the new Doge? Do they have a shot at maybe becoming that cultural icon like Doge did in our previous runs?
Look, I think both of them have achieved a kind of status as a meme thought, a tokenized culture in the context of crypto markets, and that's incredible to see. And honestly, I love this stuff from a personal level. I find it incredibly fun. NFTs and memes. As an asset manager, we need to make sure that we also provide guidance about how to think about these things in the context of the portfolio. And I can't say that the penguin or the dog, I know with confidence, is going to be a higher market value in the fullness of time. What I can say is memes are not going anywhere. Yeah. These should be thought of as tokenized culture, and don't count these things out as being real big valuable assets in the fullness of time. With the caveat that it's tough to pick the right one. You're kind of making a judgment on cultural things in the same way as investing in fine art, et cetera. I'm sure not everyone will love the comparison of Dogecoin and Pengu to fine art, but that is how I think about it. I think it's a reasonable way to think about it. It's an element of our culture today. I think it's great to see the success that these assets have had.
Well, one thing for Pengu, we did a video with Luca not too long ago. And of course, Luca being Luca says, hey, we're going to flip Doge one day. But I think the point that Luca was getting at, and he's listen, this is one of the best marketers out there. I would call him the Mr. Beast of crypto in terms of him being able, getting really where that community should be. And that's something that is of value, because in the Doge community, not that saying that they don't have a face other than Elon. I guess you could kind of call that the face of Doge. But in reality, you've got someone like Luca who's really been very successful in marketing and including phygitals, the physical aspect. They've done things with Walmart, many others. That starts to get investors looking at it a little bit differently than just a meme token or a meme ETF. That, I think, has an opportunity to really be maybe next level. So we'll see if we get an ETF for Pengu.
I'd say you can probably count on it in some shape or form. And look, he is a builder. It's been fun to watch that story. We have a couple of these penguins at my house for sure. Yep. And I think you will see more of these types of products brought to market to the extent that there is demand. I think likely with the penguins, there will be enough demand to see it in an ETF.
I want to jump over to a couple other things before we get out of here, and that is talking about what's happening in the market dramatically around privacy tokens, and also this most recent issue that happened with Cloudflare. And I want your opinion on this. Obviously, as an asset manager, you probably get questions around this all the time. I'm going to go to a clip because this shows a little bit about what happened with the Cloudflare outage. Take a look.
A once-in-a-lifetime internet disaster just happened for the third time this year.
Whether it's this outage, recently Amazon Web Services, they had an issue, Microsoft Azure had an issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. Was it CloudStrike or CrowdStrike?
Things are getting bad. The smart automations or AI built into these things, it failed.
Not because anyone is under attack, but because complex systems can and do fail.
These are supposed to be the big gatekeepers.
Like any 30-year-old highway, the potholes are starting to show up.
We are moving into the holiday season, is the top time for cybercrime to come after consumers.
Well, David, on that positive note,
uptime. This is really, really important. This 100% uptime, very, very, very important. A dozen clients working on this thing. There's thousands of nodes running this thing. Wallstreet demands decentralization. There are only so many decentralized systems that can exist and have the security to support trillion-dollar asset classes. This speaks to them.
All right, so the point there being that Cloudflare centralized and most of our infrastructure is centralized versus decentralized that we already have seen within the Ethereum network and others that are out there doing a very good job on decentralization. Is this an important factor to institutional investors? Do you think they are concerned with understanding that the decentralized mechanism is really the future of where all of tech is going?
Absolutely. This is something that I'm glad that you played this clip in a very important issue. I think crypto shows another way to set up these systems that has a greater resilience in different scenarios. And these can be technical, computer science, infrastructure related issues, and also macroeconomic issues that it creates resilience against. I think the other element, if we're being frank, is that, crypto shares some of these vulnerabilities to, cloud-based services as well. Not everything is equally decentralized with industry. And I think it's also to keep pushing in that direction, to keep focused on long-term resilience and reduce these dependencies so that it can be a strong as possible alternative to these traditional systems.
One last question, and it is around privacy tokens. You see the run-up right here that we're showing with Zcash, which was trading back in September. Come on, guys, this is about 913 million, and of course, just exploding onto the scene, over 10 billion now. And if you compare that to a handful of other top 10, top 15 blockchains, and I would include Sui and even Avalanche in this, first of all, do you think this is just a fad rotation? What is your theory around why what we're seeing within privacy tokens has exploded the market so much here recently?
I really think it is a natural part of the maturation of the industry. When you look at public blockchain technology, it has come so far, and a lot of things have been solved, or at least have gone a long way to being solved. Security-related issues, scaling-related issues, increasingly interoperability-related issues. Privacy is a big open space, in my view. It is like the most obvious missing element that needs the most development work over the next several years. And so I think it's just the time to tackle this challenging issue of privacy. I think this theme is absolutely not going anywhere. And credit to Grayscale for being on top of some of these themes for a while. We offer a Zcash trust for accredited investors today. And I think there will be a lot of interest in Zcash as well as other privacy technologies over time.
Interesting. Well, okay, last point I want to get on, and that is, because this I think is an important topic as to how institutional investors move and analyze the market in general. Like, is this a risk-on environment in general? I'm looking currently at the amount of money that's flowing into the market right here. We're talking about VC money. If you look, in October, 3.87 billion coming into the market, and it seems to be climbing. Obviously, we don't have the November numbers yet, but clearly an uptrend over what we saw was a downtrend. So does this give the market some, confidence in the sense that there's a lot of money coming in, as we start to see these markets move like this, especially with regulatory frameworks that are now in line? Is that what you think investors are getting more comfortable with? Longer term,
anyone with a longer term perspective, VC investors, builders, business operators, feels optimistic about where crypto is today. And we include it. It's really difficult to kind of look broadly at the industry and not feel great about where the arrows are pointed. Over the short run, there's lots of things can affect markets like Federal Reserve meetings. But that chart, I think, speaks exactly to that longer term confidence. There is a long way to go, a lot to build, and a very bright future for these assets and the technology in the future. And these investors are making that type of long-term bet. And we would encourage people to try to think about it in that way, although we're happy to help try to navigate the short-term ups and downs as well.
Understood. Zach Pandl coming in from Grayscale. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for stopping in.
Always a pleasure, Paul. Thank you.
You bet. Good luck to you and your team on the 2 ETF launches today, so it'll be good. Hey, you guys know what to do. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that. You can do that by just clicking the link down below. It's a free group that you can join, and it's worth it. I think you guys will like it. We send out an email each week. I do an analysis within that, gives you guys some insights onto where the market is going. And of course, hit me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.